Hello everyone and welcome back to another video of the Road to Rotation. Up next we have our first leader from OP03, that's Portgas the Ace. He's a red leader with 5,000 power and 5 life. And he has, when this leader attacks or is attacked, you may trash any number of event or stage cards from your hand. This leader gains 1,000 power during this battle for every card trashed. So the effective way that this one works is it means that all of your events have at least 1k counter for your leader. This is also kind of interesting because it works on both offense and defense. One of the things that you may find yourself set up for, and if this leader had an unblockable event, it would be very spicy to be able to run it, is you would be able to have whatever number of cards in your hand and be able to swing a 15 plus that many cards. So that's a pretty aggressive bent on it. So what I have in this first category for cards that we go over for this leader is cards that mention Ace specifically. So there's quite a few actually in the game that mention Ace in some way. And this is one of the leaders that can use them. Not all of them are red. All of the Ace leaders are red. So some of the cards would be in blue and wouldn't be able to play with this leader. But we first up have Mass Deuce, who's a searcher who looks for other Ace cards or red events. Pretty solid effect. It usually finds a lot of the things that you're really interested in. We have a 2K here in Muda, who for one, Dawn buffs your leader for 2k, a good aggressive thing there. We have another 2k, this is Ace's mother, and she has a nice trigger of give your leader plus 3,000 power during the turn, which can be a very big stifling thing. Your opponents will have difficulty swinging into an 8k too many turns in a row. Next up we have Garp, who is one of the new searchers who works with Ace Sabo and Luffy things. But this is one of the leaders that can take advantage of it. It only searches top 5, but also searches for anything that costs 3 or more. So that's a pretty solid effect. Next up we have the EBO2 Yamato, who gains Rush and puts a Dawn on your leader. It's just an otherwise good aggressive body. And it's one of the things that is kind of hard to run if you're not running Ace. Next up we have Flame Emperor. This one is very specific to Ace. This is a great card, but in a meta without a lot of room for the removal decks, this one falls off, but I think that this is a very good card in metas where the removal is better. Being able to give your leader plus 3k and double attack while dealing with an 8k power character. And it only costs 7, so that usually leaves you enough to power reduce something. If it is bigger than 8k, you have a little bit of extra Dawn to do that. And the final card that actually mentions Ace specifically is the Striker stage, which lets you pay 2 and rest it to search for red events. Actually, I guess it's just events in general. So pretty neat thing that is unique to this one. And in this leader, at least, you can discard extra copies if you want to the leader ability. So they have 1k counters, in fact. So these are all the cards that mention Ace. The theme that you see in both of the leader and some of the support for it is some reliance on events. We've got a strong event, 2 different event searchers, and then otherwise you're looking at aggressive things. We have searchers, other ways of being aggressive with your 2Ks and stuff like that, and some rush bodies. With rush bodies in mind, we'll go into one of Red's strengths as our first category here. We'll just go through a bunch of rush options you have. There's the classic 3-cost 5,000 power Zoro. There's the probably better on average Kid and Killer, who is at 4 cost 5,000 power with Rush. But if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, it gets 2,000 more, so it's a 4 cost 7,000 in that case. We have this Zoro here, who's a 4 cost 5,000 with counter. And if you put Dawn on him, he has Rush. And then it also has on KO, you can play a character with 6,000 power or less, other than a Zoro from your hand. So this can be a good way of keeping on the board when your opponent goes to get removal. Next up we have from the starter deck 15, the Ace here. He's a 5 cost 6,000 power Rush. It only rushes in Whitebeard Pirates leaders, but its other ability is active all the time, which is once per turn. If it would be removed by your opponent's effect, you can give it 2,000 power instead. So this can make it kind of sticky. Removal is not super strong right now in this meta, but it does really stick to the board pretty well. Another classic option we have here is the 5 cost 6,000 power Luffy from SD21. This one's got Rush, and it gives your leader or another character some Rested Dawn. So pretty solid effect there. Next is a pretty old hit, but a very strong card in at reclaiming a board if you're battling back and forth for board. We have the Ace from OP02. It's a 7 cost 7,000 power, but on play, you give up to 2 of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power into their turn. And then because we're a Whitebeard Pirates type leader, this guy gains Rush. So that's a really strong way of building back board on, or capturing back board on the board in combat. And it's searchable by like the Portgas or Mastus. Next we have Dragon. This is a solid one that you see often in Sabo and a bunch of other red ones. It's just a really strong rusher. Effectively, it can be a 8 cost 11,000 power rusher, which is above rate generally. Otherwise, you can move the Dawn around and kind of get some flexibility with it. And then finally, we have our Rush card that is really important in the meta. We have the 10-drop Roger. This one works a little worse than it does in some other decks because you're a 5 life leader and it can be tough to be low enough to kind of control your fate with this one. But it is quite important against Emu, who's going to just try to set up blockers and sit behind their blockers to kill you. Similar with the red-blue Ace. So this would be a pretty important option to have some number in your deck. Next category we have are events. So I'm highlighting here a couple different types of events that can all kind of work kind of in sync. First one we have is the Just Shut Up and Come With Us event. This is if you want to run the animal package. Ace is not necessarily the strongest leader for the animal package, but it is a very viable thing. You could include being a event heavy deck, or these cards just don't have very much downside to them. Whereas sometimes you can hit these at the wrong time in other animal or in other leaders and it can be a brick, but in Ace it's almost never a brick. Next up we have Radical Beam. This is just a very strong counter event. You'll often want to be taking life pretty aggressively early, and then being able to sit behind some good events at the end is pretty good. Next up we have Seaquake, which is one that only works with Whitebeard Pirates leaders, so that's notable. And just a little bit of removal for 1 cost, being able to get rid of something with 3,000 power or less is pretty solid. Next up we have Fire Fist, which is a synergy card with Seaquake. This one is a 2 cost, give you an opponent's character -4, and then if you have 2 or less life, KO one of your opponent's characters with a power of 0 or less. So you can combo these together, reduce something to get it low enough, KO a 0, and then KO something else with this. There's a lot of flexibility to go with those. And again, as with all of these, at worst they're a 1k counter in your hand, so you have a lot more flexibility to run some of these tech cards. Next up we have Gum Gum King Kong Gatling, which is just a good aggressive card, allowing you to get some extra power for the amount of Dawn you have, and even more if your opponent has a bit of a board. And then finally we have Gum Gum Mole Pistol, which is probably one of the stronger removal events in red at the moment. even though removal is kind of at its worst right now, this is probably your best option if you want to include some removal in the deck. And then it also has that great trigger to get that KO anyways. So those are the kind of the events that I wanted to highlight. Next up, we have the Whitebeard Pirates package. So starting off, you have the Ezo, who's just your 1-cost searcher, pretty basic, but great synergy piece at finding your things. Next, we have the Marco blocker. This one used to be so nice to have. It was just a blocker that just would keep coming back, and your opponents would have real difficulties dealing with this guy who just kept coming back. It has been power crept a fair bit, so it's only protection from KO, not from a bunch of other abilities, and that makes for a lot weaker than it once was, but still fits in pretty nicely with the Whitebeard Pirates. We have the other Marco from OP03. This one is another effect that KOs a 3000 power or less, so good at comboing with stuff like what's it called? Fire Fist, and actually this other card that we have here, this Crossfire, to give opponents things -4, and then be able to KO it with a Marco or with your Flame Emperor. Flame Emperor plus Crossfire KOs everything except for Roger as far as power goes, unless the card has some sort of protection on it. You can kind of remove it with those 2 cards, and you'll even still have one more Dawn to work with after that. Next, we have from SD15 the Newgate here, who lets you KO guys. Just a great Whitebeard Pirates thing. And again, one that combos well with your power reduction to kind of extend the reach of this KO. And finally, we have the classic Whitebeard, just making your leader hard to attack into on a following turn. It's a pretty solid thing to do. A lot less effective here than in some other decks, but still quite an effective top end if you need just an extra turn or so. So yeah, those are the Whitebeard Pirate package, and now I'll hop over to the sim and show you guys an example list that I've been working on, testing it on the thing. So I will see you guys over there. All right, so we have this example deck list here. I ended up taking a little different direction than the cards that I had focused on and highlighted. What I noticed is because we're an event-heavy red deck that wants to be aggressive, I decided to add in this package for from Rayleigh. We don't get to run all of their events because they're not quite as effective for us, but we are running enough events, I think, to make this Luffy worthwhile. And then you can play Luffy into Sanji, Luffy into Boa, Luffy into other Luffy, just as a good mid-game engine. I did maintain the Yamatos, Rad Beams, and some Flame Emperors. And then we rounded it out with a Buggy for searching and Makino to kind of go with that. This list is a little unbalanced, but I think that there's a lot of things here that you could use as inspiration to get started. And I hope you guys are interested in maybe trying out this deck. It is definitely a fun one. It is well outside of its range as far as power goes, but I do think that there's a lot of fun to be had with this leader if you can dodge the kind of oppressive top meta that exists right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Next week we will be doing the green leader from the set, who is Kuro, which will be a very interesting one. That leader has a very unique archetype. Even though it plays similar to other things, it is one of a very few East Blue type leaders, so that'll be interesting to see next week. But thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.